So moving from EB-2 to EB-1A, I think that this is something that's not well understood, but something that's very, very important, especially for my clients who were born in India. Right now, we have a system that's numerically limited, and it's numerically limited at every stage. So even though the US says that EB-1A applicants have top preference doesn't mean unlimited preference. It just means that there are more likely to be more visas at the top. We have a situation right now where a lot of people are interested in immigrating to the US, and this is helped by programs that allow people to work here temporarily, like the H-1B program. But there's not necessarily room allocated in the system for those people then to have a pathway to permanent residency. So a lot of times, people will come here to the US, they'll come on H-1B status, and then they want to make their status more formal. So they go through the perm immigration process with their employer and get either an EB-2 or an EB-3 preference category priority date. And this essentially means that they are placed in this category where USCIS has a planned time for when they will be able to get their green card. But the backlogs in those categories mean that sometimes their wait is going to be very, very long. Since wait times are determined by country of birth, for people from India, it's extra long. A lot of people can take the category that they're in and their priority date, and they can actually move it up into the next category. So, for example, someone here from India who has a master's degree and has applied with their employer in the EB-2 preference category can then upgrade that onto an EB-1A. EB-1 means the first preference category. If they do that, they're taking control of their own future because they can self-petition for that EB-1A and are no longer reliant on an employer. I think more importantly, it removes them into a different category where the backlog is much, much shorter. As we talked about earlier, the visa bulletin is now announcing the backlog in EB-1A is about 2 to 3 years for Indian nationals. So a lot of people who move up into the EB-1A are in a really good position to actually get their green card much, much faster. I don't think that the system was initially designed to allow for this kind of pipeline where people move from one category to the other and move up and out of the system. But it is something that ends up working really well, even if it wasn't the initial intent of the law in the first place. So I recommend that people look into that a little bit more. It's not something that a lot of employment-based immigration firms are necessarily experts in or looking at because they generally only deal with that initial employer petition. But it is something that is possible for a large number of people to progress through the system and get an earlier green card than they would otherwise be able to do.